Iranian state media confirmed in the early hours of March 1st, 2026, that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in U.S. Israeli airstrikes on his Tehran compound on February 28th. The confirmation came approximately 20 hours after U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli officials first claimed Khamenei's death, which Iranian authorities initially denied. Iranian state broadcaster IRIB and the Supreme National Security Council announced that Khamenei died from injuries sustained when missiles struck his office and residence. The government declared 40 days of public mourning and 7 days of national holiday. Multiple members of Khamenei's immediate family were also killed in the strikes, according to Iranian media reports. This marks the first time a sitting Iranian supreme leader has been killed and creates immediate constitutional succession questions during active military conflict. This analysis examines 5 interconnected developments. First, the sequence of events from initial strikes through official confirmation, including the delay in Iranian acknowledgement. Second, the reported casualties among Iran's senior military and political leadership, creating command structure complications. Third, Iran's retaliatory operations across the region and escalation dynamics. Fourth, the mourning period declaration and documented domestic reactions ranging from official ceremonies to street celebrations. Fifth, the constitutional succession process and immediate power arrangements during the crisis. U.S. and Israeli forces struck multiple locations across Iran beginning early morning February 28, 2026. Among the targets was a compound in Tehran housing Khamenei's office and residential quarters. The compound is located in a district that also contains the presidential complex and National Security Council facilities. Israeli officials told media outlets, including the Washington Post and Reuters, on Saturday afternoon that Khamenei had been killed in the strikes. 4 Israeli security officials speaking on condition of anonymity provided this assessment to the Post. An unnamed Israeli official told Reuters that Khamenei's body had been located. President Trump announced on Truth Social Saturday evening that Khamenei was dead, calling him one of the most evil people in history. Iranian authorities initially denied these claims. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told NBC on Saturday that as far as he knew, all senior leadership remained safe. Iranian news agencies Tasnim and Mehr, which have links to state security apparatus, reported Saturday that Khamenei was steadfast and firm in commanding the field. However, in the early hours of March 1st, Iranian state television broadcast an announcement from the Supreme National Security Council confirming Khamenei's death. The announcement stated that Khamenei was martyred in the attacks. State media IRIB showed the announcement with somber imagery and Quranic recitation. The approximately 20-hour delay between Western claims and Iranian confirmation raises questions about internal decision-making processes. The delay could reflect time required to verify Khamenei's status, secure his compound, manage succession arrangements, or prepare public messaging. Alternatively, authorities may have attempted to maintain command authority during active combat before accepting the necessity of official acknowledgement. The confirmation came after celebrations were reported in several Iranian cities Saturday night. Residents in Tehran, Isfahan, Karaj, Kermanshah, Shiraz, and other locations were documented through video and audio recordings celebrating in streets, playing music from windows, and displaying expressions of joy. These celebrations began shortly after international reports of Khamenei's death spread through social media and Persian-language media outlets hours before official Iranian confirmation. The government response upon confirmation included declaration of 40 days of mourning, a traditional Islamic mourning period. Additionally, 7 days of national holiday were announced. Schools, government offices, and most businesses will remain closed during this period. State television immediately began broadcasting religious programming and statements from officials. Iranian state media reported that 4 members of Khamenei's immediate family were killed in the same strikes that killed him. Reports indicate his daughter, son-in-law, grandchild, and daughter-in-law died. Iranian media outlet Fars News Agency which has connections to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, confirmed these family casualties. Israel targeted Khamenei's sons, according to Israeli officials, but intelligence assessments suggest they survived the strikes. Mojtaba Khamenei, one of his sons, had been discussed as a possible successor, and his survival creates one potential path in succession considerations. Beyond Khamenei, the strikes killed multiple senior Iranian military and security officials, according to Israeli Defense Forces statements. IDF spokesman Brigadier General Efi Difrin provided a list of senior Iranian officials targeted and reportedly killed. The list included Ali Shamkhani, Secretary of Iran's Defense Council and senior advisor to Khamenei. Also listed were IRGC commanders, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, and Defense Minister Aziz Nasirzadeh. CNN reported that Israeli officials claim the opening strikes decimated Iran's chain of command, targeting approximately 30 top military and civilian leaders, with 7 senior defense and intelligence officials reportedly killed. Independent verification of these casualty claims has not been possible, as Iran has not released comprehensive casualty figures for leadership. The destruction of senior command structure creates immediate operational complications for Iranian military responses. Command and control systems rely on established hierarchies and communication channels. When senior commanders are killed, subordinate officers must make decisions without clear authority or coordination. This can lead to either paralysis as units await direction or uncoordinated actions as different commanders make independent decisions. For the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps specifically, the loss of senior commanders affects both conventional military operations and coordination with regional proxy forces. The IRGC operates as a parallel military structure to Iran's conventional armed forces and reports directly to the Supreme Leader. With both the Supreme Leader and multiple IRGC commanders reportedly killed, the command structure faces significant disruption. The status of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian remains uncertain, according to multiple media reports. There is no confirmed information on his location or condition nearly 24 hours after the strikes. His deputy, Mohammadreza Aref, has assumed executive duties, according to Iranian media. Rumors that Pezeshkian was killed or seriously wounded have circulated but lack official confirmation. Despite command disruption, Iran conducted substantial retaliatory operations beginning Saturday and continuing through Sunday. Iranian forces launched over 200 ballistic missiles and drones targeting Israel, U.S. military bases, and locations in multiple Arab countries, according to reports from affected governments. Israeli authorities confirmed missile impacts in Tel Aviv and northern cities. At least one woman was killed in Tel Aviv, and over 20 others were wounded, according to emergency services. Sirens sounded across Israel as missile defense systems engaged incoming threats. U.S. Central Command confirmed that American military sites in the Middle East sustained damage from Iranian missile and drone attacks, but stated no U.S. troops were hurt. Specific bases affected have not been publicly identified, but likely include facilities in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and other Gulf locations hosting U.S. forces. Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, and Oman all reported Iranian strikes on their territory. At least one person was killed in Abu Dhabi, according to local authorities. The targeting of Arab Gulf states represents significant escalation, as these countries host U.S. military presence, but are not direct participants in the Israel-Iran conflict. Iranian media reported that one strike hit a girls' elementary school near a military base in Manab, southern Iran, killing over 100 children. This claim, if accurate, represents major civilian casualties from the U.S. Israeli operations. Independent verification of this specific incident has not been possible. Iranian state media cited Red Crescent figures indicating at least 201 people were killed across 24 Iranian provinces in the Saturday strikes, with 747 wounded. These are Iranian government figures that cannot be independently verified, but represent the official casualty count being reported domestically. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy announced that passage through the Strait of Hormuz is not allowed, according to reports from EU naval mission officials. This represents a threatened or actual closure of the waterway through which approximately one-fifth of global oil passes. The practical implementation and duration of any closure remains unclear as of March 1st. Oil shipments and air travel have been disrupted across the region. Multiple countries closed their airspace, including Iran, Israel, Iraq, Lebanon, and for periods several Gulf states. Airlines canceled hundreds of flights. Regional airports experienced congestion from stranded passengers unable to travel. The contrast between official mourning and public celebrations highlights internal divisions within Iranian society. The government has organized mourning ceremonies, religious observances, and public displays of grief in state-controlled venues. State television broadcasts show officials, clerics, and supporters expressing sorrow and vowing revenge. Simultaneously, documented celebrations occurred in multiple cities. Video footage circulated on social media shows Iranians dancing in streets, setting off fireworks, distributing sweets, and expressing joy. These celebrations occurred despite risks of arrest or violent response from security forces. The celebrations reflect opposition sentiment that has existed throughout Khamenei's 35-year rule. Major protest movements have been violently suppressed under his leadership. The most recent nationwide protests, beginning in late 2025, were met with deadly force. U.S. President Trump stated that Iranian regime killed at least 32,000 protesters, citing figures from Iranian health ministry officials. These protests were triggered by economic crisis, including the collapse of the rial currency and rising prices. The opposition to the regime crosses ethnic and social lines. Iran's population includes Persians, Azeris, Kurds, Arabs, Balokis, and other groups. Some opposition stems from ethnic grievances, some from economic hardship, some from desire for political freedom, and some from rejection of theocratic governance. The variety of motivations creates a fragmented opposition without unified leadership or program. Security forces have responded to celebrations with tear gas and in some locations with gunfire, according to reports. In Dailoran in western Iran, clashes reportedly occurred between demonstrators marching toward the governor's office and security forces. The scale and severity of crackdowns on celebrations will affect whether public opposition grows or is suppressed. Iran's constitution provides procedures for succession when the supreme leader dies. The Assembly of Experts, consisting of 88 senior Islamic clerics, is constitutionally responsible for selecting the next supreme leader. During the selection process, a three-member council assumes temporary authority. However, active military operations complicate constitutional processes. The Assembly of Experts cannot safely convene for deliberations while airstrikes continue. Iran International and other sources reported, citing anonymous sources, that the IRGC is pushing for appointment of a successor outside constitutional procedures due to inability to hold assembly meetings during combat. If the IRGC attempts extra-constitutional succession, questions of legitimacy arise. The Islamic Republic's governmental structure combines theocratic and republican elements. The supreme leader holds ultimate authority over military, judiciary, and foreign policy, but derives legitimacy partly from selection by the Assembly of Experts, which itself is elected. Bypassing this process could create legitimacy challenges, even if the IRGC has physical power to impose a choice. Potential successors include several figures. Ali Larijani, Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council and former Parliament Speaker, emerged as the most senior civilian official surviving the strikes, according to Axios reporting. Larijani posted on social media Saturday vowing Iran would deliver an unforgettable lesson to Israel and the U.S. Mojtaba Khamenei. If he indeed survived, represents a potential dynastic succession as Ali Khamenei's son. He had been discussed as a possible successor during his father's lifetime, though no formal designation occurred. Ebrahim Raisi served as president before current President Pezeshkian and remains a potential candidate if succession processes can proceed. His status and availability are uncertain given the chaos of current circumstances. President Trump told media that he knows who is running Iran following Khamenei's death, but declined to provide specifics. Trump suggested there are some good candidates when asked who he would like to see lead Iran. These comments indicate U.S. intelligence assessments of internal Iranian dynamics and possible American preferences for particular outcomes. The succession struggle will occur while Iran faces active military operations, internal unrest, and international isolation. The choices made will affect Iran's nuclear program decisions, regional proxy relationships, internal governance approach, and willingness to negotiate with adversaries. U.S. and Israeli operations continue as of March 1st. President Trump stated in social media posts that bombing would continue uninterrupted throughout the week, or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East. Israeli forces announced new strikes in the heart of Tehran on Sunday. The stated objectives include degrading Iran's military capabilities, destroying nuclear and missile facilities, and creating conditions for regime change. Trump and Netanyahu have explicitly called for the Iranian people to overthrow the government. Trump's statement urged IRGC and police to peacefully merge with Iranian patriots and help the transition. Whether regime change occurs depends on multiple uncertain factors. The level of public opposition, cohesion, or fragmentation of security forces, effectiveness of continued military pressure, international diplomatic efforts, and actions of regional actors all influence outcomes. Historical precedent from other regime change attempts shows varied results and often prolonged instability. International reactions have been mixed, reflecting different strategic interests and relationships. Some governments, including Argentina's President Javier Milei, praised Khamenei's elimination, citing Iran's role in the 1994 AMEA bombing in Buenos Aires and decades of terrorism sponsorship. Members of U.S. Congress from both parties reacted positively, according to media reports, with Senator John Fetterman and Representative Tom Emmer among those expressing support for the operation. European governments face complex positioning. European Union countries generally support preventing Iranian nuclear weapons development, but have concerns about military escalation, civilian casualties, and regional instability. European officials invested substantial diplomatic effort in nuclear negotiations, and the current military operations represent failure of the diplomatic track. However, European leaders have not issued unified statements as of March 1st, suggesting internal discussions about appropriate response. China and Russia have economic and strategic interests in Iran. China imports Iranian oil and has infrastructure investments in the country. Russia has military cooperation agreements and views Iran as a counterweight to Western influence in the region. However, neither country wants prolonged conflict that disrupts energy markets or creates broader instability. Their diplomatic positioning will likely emphasize calls for de-escalation while avoiding direct confrontation with the United States. Regional Arab states experience direct impact from Iranian retaliation while hosting U.S. military presence. Saudi Arabia views Iran as its primary regional rival, but has pursued diplomatic normalization in recent years. The UAE has extensive economic interests requiring regional stability. Qatar maintains relationships with both Western countries and Iran. These countries face difficult choices about public positioning and practical security cooperation. Energy market implications extend beyond immediate Strait of Hormuz concerns. Global oil prices will react when markets open following the weekend. Analysts predict significant price increases given both supply disruption concerns and risk premium from ongoing military conflict. Sustained high oil prices would increase inflation globally, pressure consumer spending, and potentially trigger recession in import-dependent economies. Natural gas markets face similar pressures. Qatar exports substantial liquefied natural gas through potentially threatened shipping lanes. European countries managing energy security challenges following reduced Russian supplies would face additional complications if Qatari LNG becomes unavailable or prohibitively expensive. The humanitarian implications encompass civilian casualties from strikes, displacement from combat zones, disruption of medical services and food distribution, and broader economic collapse affecting populations across the region. Iran's economy was already experiencing crisis with currency collapse and inflation. Military conflict exacerbates these conditions, creating potential humanitarian emergency. The situation represents unprecedented crisis for Iran and creates wide-ranging uncertainties for the Middle East, global energy markets, and international relations. The immediate questions concern succession process, scale of Iranian retaliation, duration of U.S. Israeli operations, humanitarian costs from continued strikes, and whether diplomatic pathways exist to prevent further escalation. To summarize core findings, Iranian state media confirmed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's death on March 1st after initial denials, stating he was killed in February 28th strikes on his Tehran compound along with 4 family members. A 40-day mourning period and 7-day national holiday were declared. Multiple senior Iranian military and political officials were reportedly killed, including IRGC commanders and defense officials, creating command structure complications. Iran conducted retaliatory strikes across the region targeting Israel, U.S. bases, and Gulf Arab states, with over 200 missiles and drones causing casualties and threatening Strait of Hormuz closure. Domestic reactions split between official mourning ceremonies and celebrations in multiple cities, reflecting internal divisions. Constitutional succession through Assembly of Experts faces complications from ongoing combat, with reports IRGC may pursue extra-constitutional process. Potential successors include Ali Larijani, possibly Mojtaba Khamenei, and other figures. U.S. and Israeli operations continue with stated regime change objectives. Regional escalation includes disrupted air travel, oil shipping concerns, and strikes across multiple countries. What remains uncertain is the succession outcome and timeline, scale of IRGC control over transition, whether public opposition will grow or be suppressed, duration and intensity of continued military operations, Iranian retaliation capacity and targeting, international diplomatic intervention effectiveness, Strait of Hormuz status and oil market impacts, casualties from continued operations, and whether this leads to regime transformation or regime consolidation under new leadership. Analysis continues monitoring official announcements, verified incidents, succession developments, and regional responses to this unprecedented crisis.